So, like I said, we've had a lot of things that happened since the last time that we met. And, we had Christmas. How many of you guys got like an awesome Christmas present? Go ahead and tell your neighbor the Christmas present that you got. And those of you guys in the wings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to come on over into the center here. So go ahead, tell your neighbor what was the awesome Christmas present that you got. So, So if you think your friend had like the most awesome Christmas present ever, raise your hand. If you think your friend had the best Christmas present ever, raise your hand. Okay, what was that? Isabel. What was your friend's awesome Christmas present? She went on a trip to Disneyland? She got a trip. You had a trip to Disneyland for Christmas. That's pretty awesome. What other awesome Christmas present did your friend have? All right, Dallas, what did John have? What? An awesome hoodie. All right, we're going to go one more up here. You got a laptop. Zoe, you got a laptop. Merry Christmas. So I got a Christmas present. It was a little early. It might be a birthday. My birthday is in December too. So like maybe this is a birthday / Christmas gift. I don't know. But this was my gift. He came like 3 weeks before Christmas. My little baby. So that is my son. He was born December 4th, 3 weeks before Christmas, a little early Christmas present, but that's my son, Greg. He is doing good. He has gained a lot of weight. He's getting longer, and he's sleeping a little bit better, but babies like to wake up a lot in the middle of the night, and they sleep, so you have to help them out a lot. But that was my Christmas gift. He likes to wake us up. He likes to eat. And so also, what else do we have? We had New Year's. So around New Year's, a lot of people like to make resolutions, right? Do you know what a resolution is? Okay. That's where you I want to try to do something to change in my life to make my life better, right? And so there's a lot of different things that people like to do. And so here I have a list of some of the most common New Year's resolutions that people like to make. You've got getting healthier. I think the top got cut off a little bit. Like going to the gym is like the biggest one. Somehow that got cut off. I think I messed up when I did the screenshot. Travel more, save some money, reduce stress, learn something, maybe eat a little bit healthier, lose weight, all those things. There's lots of things that we can do, right? I want to choose to get better with this. And I want to tell you this right here. We like to do a lot of fun things here at FBC, especially for youth group. We get to do fun games and stuff, but we also like to get serious about Jesus. And I'm going to tell you this. The biggest change that you can make in your life is to decide to stay plugged into Jesus. To get plugged into Jesus. And so maybe some of you guys have made some New Year's resolutions. No, we got some no's. No. But I'm going to challenge you. For this year, be serious about getting plugged into Jesus. Because that is the most substantial change, the most substantial, the most important decision that you can make in your life is to say, I'm going to be plugged into Jesus. Okay? And so I use that word plug. We got the plug on the screen, all that kind of stuff. I use this word plug because so many of the things that we use around us use electricity. And so if you have a phone or maybe you have a gaming device, when you see this picture, what does it make you feel when you see this? It makes you cry. We get some, What happens when you see this? What do you need to go do? You need to go run and find your charger. How many of you guys like go running and like you do nothing else until you find the charger for your phone, right? We got a lot of hands raised, right? That is like, oh no, the battery's about to die. I am going to run. I'm going to do anything in my power to find the cord, to find the plug, to get it plugged in so that it doesn't die, right? That's what we do. And how many of you gone and you run and you go and get the cable and you're like, this is the wrong one. How many of you have done that? I have done that. So not so much a problem for me now. I got a new phone. Some of you guys knew that I needed a new phone for a long time. I got a new phone, and now
what happened to the old one?
It's
Can I have it?
it's sitting in a drawer.
Can I have the stickers on it, please?
Oh, I threw that away. The case fell apart. If you want more stickers, I can get you some more stickers, though. Okay. So for a long time, my old phone used like an old, it was a USB mini plug, and then my wife, her phone used USB-C, which is now, for all you Apple users, that's the new standard that Apple is going to. You're welcome. So sometimes you go, oh, I need to plug it in, and you're like, this is the wrong one. This isn't going to work. You need to have the right connection. You need to have the right thing. It actually needs to be plugged into the wall, to the electricity, for it actually to charge. Because otherwise, if you have this, it's going to die. Unless you plug it in and get some juice into the battery, that phone, that game, that device is going to die, and it's not going to be able to do what it was meant to do. If you have a phone and it has no battery, it's pretty much useless for the things that you want to use it for. It could be a paperweight. You might be able to fend off an attacker with it. Throw it at them. But all the things that you normally want to do with it, to connect with people, to see pictures, to share friends, to take photos, to make, you guys don't make phone calls, to text. But, you're right, if you don't have a battery, it's not going to work. And the reality is if you are not plugged in, if you are not connected to Jesus, to be refreshed, to be recharged in him, you're going to go empty too. You're going to feel drained. You're going to be wiped. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to do the things that God made you to do. And so what I want us to do is we're going to be looking at John 15. And so if you grabbed one of the black Bibles that are out there, it's going to be page 848, if you grabbed one of those. And so if you want to be recharged, like your phone, you have to be plugged in to Jesus. And so what Jesus is doing in this passage where we're going to be looking at, Jesus is meeting with all of his disciples. So all the people, the guys who have been following him and hanging out with him for the last 3 years. This is like the last night that he has with them. Because Jesus knows that the next thing that's going to happen to him is that there's going to be soldiers that are going to come, that are going to take him away, and ultimately he's going to get beaten and taken to the cross and crucified. And so Jesus is talking to his disciples because he knows when that happened, the next thing after he gets crucified is he's going to raise to life and he's going to go to heaven to be with God. And the relationship that he's going to have with his disciples is going to fundamentally change. You see, the disciples are used to Jesus being right there, where they can go, hey, Jesus, I was wondering, and turn and talk to a person. Because Jesus, at this time, Jesus was a physical human person living, walking with them. They could touch him. They could talk with him, eat a meal with him. They could sit down and they go, hey, Jesus, what about this? They joked with him. They laughed with him. They understood him in a way that is really unique. And Jesus knew that that relationship was going to fundamentally change because Jesus was no longer going to be physically present with them. And so he was telling them, he starts talking to them, and he says, you need to stay plugged into me, even when I'm not physically present, because otherwise you're going to feel depleted and you're not going to have the right relationship that you need to have. And so Jesus starts speaking in John 15, verses 1 through 6. And he says this, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. And so he starts using this picture of a vine where grapes grow. You might love grapes. Maybe you like grape juice. I like grape juice. Most people don't like grape juice, but I like grape juice. But for the most part, you go to the store, right? Or your parents go to the store, and grapes just show up in your fridge. Isn't it how that works for you guys, most of you guys? Do some of you guys go pick the grapes out yourself? Some of you guys do. Some of you guys help your parents, you go shopping. That's great. But the grapes, most of you aren't growing grapes in your backyard. My dad has some grapes in his backyard. They're tasty. They're actually pretty good. And so he has these 2 grapevines, and so he's using a picture that they would understand because they would be surrounded by people who had vineyards and grew grapes. And so he's like, there's a vine, and so what it is if you have, this is the ground, there's a vine that comes out of the ground, and it's this thick stalk, and usually it splits off into 2. That's how they shaped it. And then off of it would be these branches that would come off where the grapes would grow, and the leaves would grow on that. And so he's using this picture, and he says, I'm the true vine. Jesus is saying, I'm the main stalk. It'd be like if I was to say, Jesus is the trunk of the tree. Or in our analogy, our picture, Jesus is the power source. Jesus is the charger. And you are the phone. Jesus is the vine, we are the branches. And he says, and God works in us to help us, if we were the vine, to be able to produce fruit, to make grapes. Or if we were a phone, to be able to make those texts, to connect, to take those pictures and to share them. But he continues, already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. And as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. And so he's using this word abide. And this idea of abide is to be connected to. To abide is to have rest in, to be refreshed in, to be on the same page. You'd be like, we have our vibes, we're vibing right now. That's this idea of abiding. We're vibing because we're on the same page. We understand one another, okay? It's this deep, intimate connection that's taking place. So Jesus is saying, you need to abide in me. It's not good if the phone and the charger are in the same room. The charger needs to be plugged in, and it needs into the phone, right? If it's not plugged into the phone, there's no power that's going to it. It's not going to work. It has to be connected in a way that actually works. That way the phone can charge and the phone can work. And so Jesus goes on and says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If you're not connected to Jesus, if you're not plugged into Jesus, your life, you're going to be able to go through, you're going to do things, but you're going to be losing out on the meaning, the purpose, the significance that God has intended for you. You see, God intended for you to have a relationship. He created you with a desire to be in community and to connect and to be in a relationship with him. And he says, without that, ultimately, you are going to go off and you're going to start searching for other ways to find meaning and purpose and significance in your life. And there's lots of different ways that we do that. We look for that in relationships, sometimes in the video games that we play, sometimes how many likes we get on our social media. Whatever it is, so many different ways that we can look and seek and try to find purpose, significance, and meaning. And what the studies say, and I read a lot about all the different generations, is your generation so much wants to do something that has significance. You want to do something that has purpose, that's something that you enjoy, that isn't just about like you, but that impacts the world around you. And he says, if you want to do that, the real way that you do that is first you get plugged into Jesus. Because apart from me, you can do nothing. And then Jesus continues, if anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and it withers. See, the branches, if it's not connected to like the trunk, the vine, the main part of that grapevine, it's not going to grow. It dries out. It says it's going to get withered, and what's going to do is that it's not good for anything. It's just going to be used as firewood, as kindling. It's going to get burned because it has no longer any purpose and significance. And Jesus says, if you want to be connected, you need to connect to me. If you want to have that, if you want to have meaning and purpose and significance in your life, you need to be connected to him. And the reality is, as we look through this passage, there's two things. Is if you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you are connected to Jesus. But sometimes we are connected, but the connection isn't that great, and you're running low on battery. And what I want to encourage you is get fully connected, get fully recharged in Jesus. And sometimes what that's going to mean is that Jesus is going to come into your life and he's going to start helping you and directing you, and we call this discipline. Jesus is going to discipline in your life, and he's going to say, there's some things in your life that you're wasting all your battery energy on, doing these things that are not good, that are actually going to hurt you. We're going to need to get rid of that out of your life, and let's focus on the things that are good. He's going to do that. He's going to correct us. He's going to encourage us to do the things that are actually going to help us in our relationship. But secondly, this also points to the fact that we actually need to be connected to him. Sometimes we go to church, and I know I've known people over the years who they go to church, they have Christian friends, they do the thing that makes them look like a Christian, but they're not really following Jesus. They're just like, oh, I like the idea of Jesus, but I'm not really following him. And they're like a branch or a phone that's dead, sitting next to the charger, and like, I like the idea of a charger, but I don't know if I'm going to get plugged in. And so, for you, if that's you, make the decision this year to say, I'm going to get plugged into Jesus, I'm going to follow him. I'm going to become a believer for the first time. Some of you just need to go, I need to make it a priority in my life to stay plugged into Jesus, because when we get plugged into Jesus, when we spend time worshiping, that's how we plug into Jesus. When we spend time in his word, we get plugged into Jesus, and that recharges us. When we spend time serving and helping one another, that connects us to Jesus. When we spend time in community where we encourage and we support one another and we love one another, that's us plugging into Jesus. Those are the things that are going to recharge us and help us and direct us in our lives to be closer to him. We worship, we serve, we connect, and there's lots of different ways that we can do that. That's how we get plugged in and recharged, when we make our relationship with Christ a priority. And so my challenge for you this coming year is that you make that relationship a priority, that you choose to say, I'm going to be plugged into Jesus. I'm going to be plugged in. I'm going to be plugged in his word, in prayer, in worship, and being connected with other people who are going to help me grow. Because when you do those things, what's ultimately going to happen is you are going to start living out the way that God intended you to live. And one of those things is that you're going to be sharing God's love with other people, and more people are going to know him, and more people are going to get plugged in to Jesus. And that's what it looks like for us to bear fruit, to do the thing that God intended us to do. So that's my challenge. Get plugged into Jesus. Thrive. Have a full battery in your life. But that's only going to happen if you take those steps to worship, to serve, to connect, and reach. If you aren't taking those steps, don't be surprised when you feel worn out and depleted and you're not connected to God. Because that's what's going to happen if you don't do those things. You'll feel worn out, you'll feel depleted, you'll feel like God is distant. You have to take the steps to connect to God because God is right there waiting and willing and wanting to connect to you. So this 2024, let's get connected. Let's get plugged in to Jesus. I'm going to pray for us, and we'll head out to connect groups, and I'll tell you about those, or into our breakout groups, and I'll tell you about those after I pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this night where we can have fun, we can cheer on for our teams, and just be goofy and silly, and it's just so much fun to be able to do that. But also, God, help us to see how important it is for us to stay plugged into you, to not let ourselves just be worn out and be depleted. Let's worship you, let's serve you, let's be connected with a community that loves and follows you so that we can have a relationship with you that flourishes. And if there's someone here who needs to accept Christ for the very first time, God, work in their hearts. Go talk to a leader tonight about following Jesus and getting plugged into him for the very first time. Bless the rest of the time we have for discussion. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.